Well, his name is Michael Rosenberg, but he uses the recording alias Passenger, and this is a new single from Passenger called Somebody's Love. New CD, Young as the Morning, Old as the Sea, is due out September the 23rd. Well, hi again, everybody. I'm Martin Bandike. Good to be with you weekdays on Ann Arbor's 1071, and it's time, since it's a Tuesday, to talk to one of our neighbors in business, and it's John Monahan, who many of you are familiar with for his great work as a Detroit Free Press special writer, writing frequently about theater and film. And we've got John here in the studio to talk about Noir City, a first annual event, a film noir festival that's coming to Southeast Michigan. John, pleasure. We've been friends for a long time, but I've never had you here live on 1071. How are you? Welcome.
Great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and tell 1071's listeners about your career as a film and theater writer. Take us back, if you would.
Oh, okay. Well, like you, I've been following the film scene in Detroit for pretty much forever. Started going to the Detroit Film Theater about 10 years old. I'm 53 now, so it's been a long time. And just love seeing film projected. I love seeing film with an audience, which is really the only way to really see film, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that experience that you have together watching a film is irreplaceable. How long have you been writing for the Free Press?
About 20 years. First as an assistant film critic, of course, under Terry Lawson, and then the last about 9 years as the theater critic.
And you also teach.
Mm-hmm. I teach about film and English in Grosse Pointe at Grosse Pointe South High School. Been doing that for, this is my 25th year.
You've been around.
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us about, we're going to get into this Film Noir Festival, but we need to define some terms here. A lot of people have heard this term Film Noir and maybe think they know what it is, but what is Film Noir? How do you define it?
Film Noir is, of course, the French term, film black, and it was a term coined by French critics after World War II. Of course, a lot of films hadn't been seen, American films hadn't been seen in France during the war, and once they finally started to come in, they were a lot darker than what they were watching before. And the French critics, they're the ones that coined this term film noir. And as we get into film history, film noir kind of has a start and end date. It starts in about 1941 with The Maltese Falcon.
Okay.
And it ends in about 1958 or 9 with Touch of Evil by Orson Welles. So those crime detective films that come between those periods, that's classic film noir. And then, of course, ever since, there's been filmmakers that have been paying tribute to it right up to the present day.
What are some of the, what do you call those, neo-noir films?
Neo-noirs,
yeah.
I mean, they're equally famous. I mean, you got your Body Heats, you got your Chinatowns, your Taxi Drivers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, those are Sin City is a good recent example. And the movie we're going to be showing, Blue Velvet, which is probably my favorite of the neo-noirs.
Some of the themes of film noir, I always think about, dark subject matter. These are typically not terribly optimistic films about humanity.
Yeah, they're
sure. Gripping for sure, with great plots and incredible acting, but they kind of often seem to reflect the dark side of humanity.
Sure, you don't get that Hollywood happy ending you were getting before the war. That's for sure. And maybe that's just because filmgoers had grown up so much during those war years. So. No, it's dark streets and after the rain. It's guys kind of in over their head, usually because of women that have gotten them into trouble. Women get a bad break in film noir. They're strong, but they're often very evil.
Femme fatales.
Sure, the femme fatale term, another French term. And again, the cinematography. There are color noirs. Leave Her to Heaven's a great example, but usually they're very black and white, and that's one of the things that looks so great on the big screen, especially in a film print, is those blacks and whites, the great contrast of film noir.
We're talking to one of our neighbors in business. This segment brought to you by North Star Bank, John Monahan. And this is the first Film Noir Festival here in Southeast Michigan. And now you've collaborated with this guy, Eddie Muller. Who is Eddie?
Eddie Muller, he has the term, maybe he coined it himself, the Czar of Noir.
Oh, I like that.
That's
got a nice ring. Yeah.
And okay. he's been doing these festivals at the Castro Theater in San Francisco for, I think, over a decade. So there's been little satellite festivals in places like New York and Chicago and Kansas City, and it just seemed logical for Detroit to have a festival. So I reached out to the organization, the actual Film Noir Foundation, and they were more than happy to come on board at a very reasonable fee to bring Eddie in to preach the gospel of film noir. And he and I collaborated on what we should show for this first season, and how wise the Redford audience was to film noir, which they pretty much are. We show a lot of film noir there already, and that's how we came up with the schedule.
We're going to talk more to John Monahan and get into the actual Noir City program of films, which will be taking place the weekend of September the 23rd through the September 25th time period. First, though, we've got REM on 107.1. San Francisco from the Mowgli's, and before that, REM on Ann Arbor's 107.1. We're back with one of our neighbors in business, John Monahan, who is the very well-known film and theater critic for the Detroit Free Press and also the curator of the first ever Detroit Film Noir Festival, which is coming up in September at Detroit's historic Redford Theater. Maybe some listeners who've never been to the Redford. We love this place. Tell us. We love the Michigan Theater, and there's a lot of similarities between our Michigan Theater and the Redford Theater. John, welcome back.
Thanks. They need to get to the Redford for sure.
Yeah.
The Redford's, do you know the capacity of the Michigan? There's 1,400 seats at the Redford.
I think the Michigan's just a little bit bigger. I want to say about 1,800 or so. Russ Collins, don't hit me if I don't have the capacity totally correct.
It's a beautiful old theater from the late 20s, done in what was called like an Oriental garden is what they called it, and all that. Any of the Asian motif got torn out during World War II, and it's slowly come back since the 70s, since this Motor City Theater Organ Society took it over, and we really have them to thank for the preservation of the theater. And we show films typically every couple of weeks on the weekends, and then we have special events like this that kind of come in between. We also have Mary Badham coming this fall with To Kill a Mockingbird. We've done that before, and that's a real special night. We actually sold that out 5 years ago. I think it's going to do even better this time. Anyways, we show film prints, and that's something that I like to focus on. We're the only place in Detroit that's consistently showing actual 35 millimeter film prints in old 1950s projectors with the carbon arc. You're really seeing a film at the Redford the way that they were originally shown in the 40s, 50s, 60s. It's super exciting.
Let's talk about Noir City starting Friday, September 23rd and through September 25th. Take us through the program, John.
Yeah. Now, what Eddie and I did, what we wanted to do, since it's the first one, we wanted this to be very much focused on people who maybe didn't know what noir was. So we're showing very popular film noir titles combined with more obscure ones in double features. And so for the first night, we're showing The Killers, which is a very famous one with Burt Lancaster and Ava Gardner.
Oh, yeah.
And then we're showing one of it's my favorite noir. It's called 99 River Street with John Payne and Evelyn Keyes. So really famous one and an obscure one you probably haven't seen. Similarly, on Saturday, we're doing Double Indemnity, which is maybe the textbook film noir, with a movie I haven't even seen yet called The Prowler, which was a restoration from the Film Noir Foundation. And then Sunday afternoon, we're showing Lady from Shanghai, the Orson Welles masterpiece, with Woman on the Run, which is another restoration from the Film Noir Society. On Saturday night, late night at 11:30, we're showing Blue Velvet, which we mentioned before as being a real influential neo-noir by David Lynch from 1986. It's its 30th anniversary.
We were discussing this off mic, John. This is one of those films we both remember the first time we saw this film. This film that just changed cinema, literally just changed my life and yours. The film was just so shocking and so brilliant on every single level. I wasn't, and you kind of go into a David Lynch film. He wasn't an unknown quantity at this point in his career, but I remember my mind was completely blown after I saw this.
It goes into
film.
such dark places, which film noir always did, and for a modern film to do that, it really he's a really strange cat, David Lynch, and it all comes out in Blue Velvet. I think it's his masterpiece. So to show a film print of that, it's an original film print actually from 1986. That's going to be a real treat. It's going to be just great. And of course, Eddie Muller is going to be introducing these films, and they were also chosen because they've got some interesting elements that combine them. Like maybe there was a screenwriter that was similar, or one of the supporting actors. So it's going to be very educational, very entertaining, and again, you're going to be seeing film prints of these amazing, amazing films.
How do people get tickets?
Okay, people can get tickets at the Redford Theater website, redfordtheater.com. It'll take you very easily to a ticket site where you can purchase individual tickets for the $10 double features, or this is what I do, and it would be very helpful to the Redford if you just bought the 3-day Noir City Festival pass for $25. It's only $25, and you get all 7 films. Plus, you can hang out with Eddie Muller on Sunday afternoon before Lady from Shanghai.
And hang out with
coffee.
You too. You'll be there.
Oh yeah,
of course.
believe me, I'll be introducing him every night, and but it's really Eddie's show. I mean, you can see me any week at the Redford, but Eddie Muller, who did a big TCM thing last summer. They did every summer on every Friday last summer. They did Friday Noirs, and he hosted every one. So you've probably seen him if you are a TCM person like Martin and I are.
Hand raised, yeah. Again, it's Redford Theater, theater with an R-E, redfordtheater.com for tickets and much more information about the first ever Detroit Film Noir Festival.
Hopefully
Noir
not the last.
City. Yeah, hopefully not the last. Coming to the Redford Theater on Lazar 17360 Lazar Road at Grand River in Detroit. Really just a stone's throw from Ann Arbor, not far from here. And it's the weekend of September 23rd through the 25th. And joining us, one of our neighbors in business, John Monahan, curator of the Noir Festival. The segment brought to you by North Star Bank. Such a pleasure having you on, John.
Thanks, Martin.
For being with us.
I'll see you there.
All right. Oh, absolutely. We've got the Young Wild on 107.1.